J.K. Rowling, the Beatles, Michael Jordan, and me. Now you're probably wondering how I fit into that set of names, but we actually share a pretty similar story. Now growing up, I was obsessed with maths. I was that one kid in your class who never studied, always mucked around, and always seemed to get the best grades. Naturally, maths class was my favorite. Now picture this, it's the start of the 8th grade, and for me, it's just another year. I'm going to use the same old strategy. And just for a bit of background context, my school in 9th and 10th grade has an extended maths program in which they analyze your 8th grade performance to dictate whether or not you can make it. And I didn't know this. And so, we're now back in 8th grade. It's the end of the year, and I've done a bit worse than usual, but you know, right around the average. And one day, my teacher comes up to me and she tells me, "Look, Pablo, we've had to remove you from the extended maths list. With your grades, it's just not a possibility anymore." The news broke me. How was I going to tell my parents? What did this mean for universities? What did this mean for my future? At the tender age of 14, my future was over. But you know, something in me decided to change this. I was going to prove them wrong. I was going to show them that I'm extended maths material. And so, I dedicated my whole summer to becoming the most perfect mathematician I could be, so that when I came back into 9th grade, they'd have no other option but to let me back in. And so I strolled into the first day of 9th grade, all confident, just to be met with unfortunate news of a no. And this was really unfortunate. But then luckily, a teacher saw the passion and desire I had to be in that class and made me a simple proposition. He would give me a test, and if I was able to get a high enough score on that test, I would be admitted back into the class. This was what my whole summer was dedicated toward. This was my moment. I took the test, and I aced it. I was now back in extended maths, and thanks to that one teacher, my future was back on course. Now, the main takeaway from this story is, if you're ever going to tell someone no, make sure the door can always be reopened, because you never know when the no was actually the flint to their steel. Now, funny enough, the first time I ever faced a no was in kindergarten. My school had this stupid rule where kids in kindergarten weren't allowed to wear shoes with shoelaces because we didn't know how to do them, and the teachers were fed up of having to do them for everyone. But naturally, the shoes I wanted had shoelaces. And so I tested out my luck, and I got the expected answer of a no. I went home miserable, and I asked my dad if he could do them for me. He also told me no. Instead, he gave me a book that taught me how to tie my own shoelaces. And at first, it was really hard, and I struggled a lot. But as time passed by, I got better and better, until eventually I could tie my own shoelaces. And I became the only kindergartner with shoelaces on their shoes. But what my dad did remarkably well in this situation was that he was able to recognize two things. First, he was able to recognize someone who has passion and can push through struggle. And second, he was able to acknowledge that it takes a few failed attempts before someone can really succeed. And as teachers, you have many similarities with parental roles in which you're responsible for educating the youth and pushing them to their fullest potential. And so, in this action of recognition that my father had, letting me fail over and over again, actually pushed me to want to do them myself even more. And if it wasn't for this, I don't think I would have ever been the only student with shoelaces on their shoes. Now, remember at the beginning of my speech where I mentioned all these celebrities? Well, did you know that J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter series, was rejected 12 times before she ever published her first book? The Beatles, one of the most infamous bands of all time, were rejected by 4 record labels before they ever released their first song. And Michael Jordan, arguably the best basketball player of all time, couldn't even make his high school team due to his small frame. So you see, even though my accomplishments might have been a bit more significant than theirs, we all shared a similar journey in which a no actually ignited us to strive for greatness. And one of my favorite quotes by Nelson Mandela is, "Don't judge me by my successes, but rather how many times I fail and get back up again. Because you never know." Well, actually, if you think about it, The power in a no isn't in its ability to set us back, but rather to push us forward. Every great success story, whether it was in business, sport, or even music, started with a setback. But the difference between a failure and a triumph lies in how we respond. So as teachers, you must recognize those who persist, because sometimes all it takes is one opportunity, one open door to change that someone's future. So, if you ever have the opportunity to give someone their shot, be the one who opens that door. Thank you.